Gengar gang, what is going on? My name is Ryan, this is the Analytic Gengar, and welcome to another video. In today's video, friends, I show you how to quickly and efficiently price out entire binder sets. And today's video is primarily driven by tons of recent purchases that I've made. Long story short, a lot of what I've recently bought for one reason or the other has ended up being binders full of cards. And this is something that is a really interesting way of both investing, collecting, and kind of treasure hunting within the Pokemon card hobby. But one of the most key and critical factors when it comes to negotiating any of these larger deals, especially when it comes to many cards, is being able to get data quickly enough and make an informed decision quickly enough. Because typically, a lot of times what will happen, especially with complete binder sets, meaning, you know, number 1 through number X cards, fully complete sets, they tend to sell very quickly. Obviously, as a result of this, it's important for you to be able to very quickly get some information and then, you know, make a decision whether or not you're interested, whether or not you're interested in working with the seller, or whether or not you'll just kind of skip and move on to the next possible thing. So with that said, I wanted to show you the method that I use and a couple of disclaimers before I go ahead and get started. One, this is a relatively simple method, and I mean simple in two ways. One, the only things that you're going to need to do this successfully are access to tcgplayer.com, particularly the price guide, as you can see on screen, which I will also have linked down below in the description. And the second thing you will need is some sort of spreadsheet software. So I'm using Google Sheets, which is free to use, but in addition to that, you also have other types of spreadsheet softwares like Microsoft Excel. So many of us probably have significant experience with that, and I've tried it out on both of the different types, both on Google Sheets and on Excel, and this method works fine for both of them. If you're on a Mac, I don't know how it's going to work out, but it probably should work the same. So with that said, that is kind of my first big disclaimer. My second disclaimer is that obviously this is one of the many tools that I use. I realize that, you know, the minute I said TCG Player, a lot of people were probably like, whoa, wait a minute, Ryan. And yeah, you're absolutely right. You should, you know, hesitate. But I am going to show you some of the different factors that I consider and really kind of articulate on why this is the best balance of things. So we'll elaborate on that a little further, but for right now, let's go ahead and get started. As you can see, right here, I'm on TCG Player price guide. It's one of the different tools that TCG Player has. Just so you're aware, here is the set for EX Emerald, but let's go ahead and get something a little bit more appropriate per se. So let's go ahead and do something like Cosmic Eclipse. Cosmic Eclipse is far enough away that obviously it's going to be a desirable set which simulates real life scenarios that you might be pursuing, and yet at the same time it's recent enough that you can see why this is a pain in the neck. If you had to go about pricing out each and every single one of these cards at a time, it would be a pain in the neck, and the main reason for that is because there's actually 236 cards in the set alone, plus your secret rares. So this can be a huge pain in the neck. Now, in order to really quickly build a price list, build a checklist, build anything like that, the way that I go about getting this information over onto a spreadsheet is very simple. I come up to the top of the page and I hover right over product. And when I hover over the word product, you'll see that it's actually sorting, which is kind of weird. So as you can see, you can sort this stuff. If you wanted to have your spreadsheet, you know, numbered appropriately, you could do that. So as an example, right here, I'm just going to go ahead and, you know, click around. But in order to get this spreadsheet to click across, right, the only thing you have to do is scroll down to the very bottom, come to this very last record, and as you can see, when I move my mouse over the price over here, I'm actually able to highlight it. So if I hold down my right mouse button and just start dragging, you'll see that I'm actually going to start capturing all of that text, etc., etc. Then I basically scroll all the way up as far as I possibly can, making sure to capture each and every single one of these items. And then, without ever releasing my button, I'm going to capture it right here up till product. So as you can see, since I started from the bottom, I can now highlight that, even though when I was showing you at first, I wasn't able to. If I tried to click on it, it would just activate the sort feature. Then what I'm going to go ahead and do is hit Control Copy, or rather Control C on my keyboard, which is just the copy function. Obviously, based on your operating system, it'll be a little different. For the fair majority of us, it'll either be Control Copy or Command Copy. Then we'll go over here to the untitled spreadsheet. Again, this works in Excel and Google Sheets, and I'm literally just going to click right here and not doing anything fancy, just Control V, which is the paste function. And there you have it. You have a really, really cool, really neat, very simple thing. Now, if you've watched my Battle Styles video where I did the set review, this is exactly how I capture that information. So that's what's good about that. The one thing that I noticed, so you'll get product, which obviously you would just rename to card. You have the rarity, which is helpful. The only thing is that they don't differentiate between like what is a textured full art versus anything else. It's either a holo rare or an ultra rare, and that would cover both GX cards and V cards, as well as V Maxes, as well as the full art cards, etc., etc. The only distinction they make is what is a secret rare. So that would include gold cards, and that would include any kind of rainbow rare card that you might have, right? So there you have it, really simple, right? The one random thing of note is that for some reason, these two copy over as white text, and since it's a white background, obviously they won't show up, or they'll be basically invisible. So just make sure to change the fill color on those. For this one, strangely enough, it's blank, but I don't think there's actually a header over here, so that's exactly why that happens. Now, a couple of benefits of using Google Sheets. If I click on one of these, it actually has the link as a hyperlink, and so I can even see the card. So I think this is a really cool feature on Google Sheets that is really helpful when it comes to a situation like this where you have 4 different Blastoises and Piplups. Well, yeah, you can just kind of click and look at the different ones. So here's the alternate art, here is the other card, the Braviary. Oops. So this is helpful because I do think there is a real benefit to being able to see the card. And then from here, here's where the magic really happens. So I usually delete column F. There's no reason to have that there unless you want the hyperlinks there. But these are the two fields that you really care about, the column D and the column E. And so a couple of things. One is that, as you can see, you have a bunch of different ways, but if you just highlight the entire column, you usually get the sum right down here at the very bottom, as you can see in the lower right hand corner. The other thing you can do is literally make a formula of it. So this is just the sum function, which is basically just add all the values that I add in here. And as you can see, if I do that, the market, the sum of this entire column is $1,763.13. I can do the same thing by just dragging this over, and as you can see, by dragging it over one, it has gone from column D to column E, and you can see the list price now is $49.34. So that's basically the problem with that, is that not every one of these cells is filled, and so as a result, you won't really get any of the comparable numbers here. So that's a main reason why there is such a steep difference between the listed median and the market prices. Just something to bear in mind, and obviously a key limitation of this method. The next thing that I like to do is just, go ahead and clean anything up or add any columns that I want. But as you can see, as of right now, we have basically everything we need in order to very quickly and easily get a really good understanding of how much a complete set of cards from this set, Cosmic Eclipse, should cost. I have the market at about $1,763, and I have the listed median. Unfortunately, it is a bit of a junky number just because there's not a lot of cards that are populated here, but assuming that there are a bunch of cards listed there, it would help. So with that said, you now see how you can very quickly and efficiently get the market price. Obviously with the listed median, it is a bit of a junk field, mainly because the data that we're pulling from is junk as well. And so obviously these two prices definitely don't jive. On an individual line item basis, it's actually kind of funny. For the market, many of the prices are actually lower than the listed median price, which is kind of weird. In some cases they match up, but you know, I'm looking at many where it's actually lower or equal to, which is actually funny. What that means is that if this listed median was filled out and followed the same pattern that we're currently observing with the fields we can, it would probably indicate that a full set would be worth a lot more than even this number. So that's actually really interesting. But, you know, obviously different cards also behave differently. And so, you know, many of the ultra rare and secret rare cards may not follow the same general pattern that we're seeing with many of the uncommon and common cards. So with that said, that's really it. There's not much science behind this. It's a very simple copy and paste function, but I do think that there is a real benefit to this. The benefit, and this is what I was alluding to earlier on in the intro to the video, is that it's a very competitive space right now to be able to buy entire binder sets of cards. And it really does take a lot of the work out of collecting. You know, you just get a medium rate box in the mail that has all the items you want in it. It's super easy, super chill, super fun, and you really don't have to worry about it. At the end of the day, you still get the same pleasure of being able to look through the binder and really enjoy your collection. And you don't have to go around chasing all these cards, sorting through bulk, etc., etc. I'm not saying it's going to replace my love of, you know, opening packs and stuff like that, but I definitely have learned to appreciate pre-made binders every once in a while now, because at the end of the day, you know, they are still part of my collection, assuming I purchase them. So all that said, it's an incredibly competitive space because a lot of people are now sharking after these binders. And moreover, and to the point, whenever you're in a situation like that where there's tons of stuff coming your way and you need to make a decision and let the person you're working with know whether or not you're interested, it's a really, really important to have up-to-date information and be able to make an assessment that is based on real-life logic. This is real-life logic because at the end of the day, one of the key components of this is that you're looking at math, and math is a lot better than using your subjective judgment in order to make a decision. At least when you look at this, you can say, okay, TCG Player has all the prices. I just go ahead and, you know, sum it up, and now I have a pretty good indicator of, you know, how I'm going about this. In situations where a card is missing, or, you know, it's not a complete set but it's a near complete set, in theory you can still do this. You would just have to sort through the different names, delete the costs that aren't there. So as an example, if I delete this number here, as you can see, this price has adjusted accordingly, and so you would just go about parsing through and deleting the cards that aren't included in the purchase, and then easy peasy, right? You would simply be in a situation where you can still get a pretty good assessment. The main gimmick here is that we want to be quick, and, you know, although I was providing a lot of commentary, it takes about 2 minutes to get this done. And so in the grand scheme of things, this is a great way to be like, hey, give me 5 minutes and then come back to the person with a counteroffer. One of the obvious limitations to this method, and again, something that I alluded to earlier in the video, is a lot of people will argue the merits of TCG as a pricing strategy. Many people say they price above market, and so the prices you see here may not actually be what cards are selling for. And so as a result, the one thing that I usually do is I'll go ahead and do something like this. So just as an example, I would do something like 0.95, 0.9, 0.8, 0.75, and 0.6, right? And the way that this works now is this is basically a percentage, and then we just take that percentage and multiply it by the price we are seeing up here. And then when I go ahead and do that, as you can see, Google is really nifty because it, just kind of does everything for me. And this is like a super quick financial analysis that I think can be really helpful in your decision making. So let's just say that someone had a full, complete binder set of Cosmic Eclipse for $1,400. And they said, hey, are you interested in purchasing this? Well, if we come on TCG Player, we do the analysis as I've just shown you how to do, and we come to this number, we may immediately look and say, oh wow, they only want $1,400. In theory, that is significantly less than what TCG is showing as the actual price. It's about $363 cheaper than that, which is a pretty good thing. Then we can go ahead and do something like this, which I would, very simply call a band analysis. We basically show the different bands and what that percentage is. So if we were gonna price all of this at 95% of TCG, meaning, we give ourselves like a nice 5% discount, we'd be looking at about $1,674, right? And then one additional thing that you could possibly do here is just do a very simple calculation like that, and then it would basically just show you the difference between the two, right? And so if you were looking at 95, you'd say, oh wow, it's still about $274, favorable. Here you can see that it's about $186 favorable. The 90% bracket is typically where people price cards at. So in my experience, everyone who's anyone says, oh, I do 90% of TCG Player, meaning you take about 10% off the price of the card because TCG typically builds in about a 10% margin. And so we just kind of take that out and price it there, right? But in an example like this, it still makes sense and is still a great deal. You can do the same thing at any percentage that you're comfortable with. I usually argue that 80% is a real bargain. And so if you're pricing it at 80%, you're really getting a bargain here, right? You're saying, take 20% off every single one of these cards, and you're looking at about still $10 in built-in value there. So that's actually pretty neat. 75 and 60% of TCG, this is typically in the range where it's kind of like, I'm looking to move this stuff very quickly because I had an emergency, I have a kid on the way, I need some money for repairs on my car. And so you'll also see this very frequently with bulk sets, and you'll also see this very frequently with things like very large amounts of cards and stuff that you really don't want to sort through. And so this is typically where you see like the wholesale liquidation stuff, right? You can still run the analysis at this level, and you can see that, technically you're paying an extra $77 here, you're paying an extra $342 here. Again, these are kind of steep, but this band analysis kind of helps give you a good idea of how much, equity you have. Realistically, a $1,400 complete Cosmic Eclipse binder sounds like a great deal because, it's holding up to the fair majority of our tests, and these are pretty steep discount figures anyway. And at this point, you're only losing $77. I would argue at that point, your time is worth the $77 that you're paying here. Don't forget, you'd have to find all these cards. Mind you, Cosmic Eclipse is no longer on store shelves, and booster boxes and ETBs are no longer at MSRP anyway. And so I would argue, for what it's worth, the $77 is going to save you a lot of trouble. And then if you really wanted to be aggressive about the way that you price, I guess you could consider the 60% band as well. But all in all, that is my technique for pricing out binder sets, friends. I do hope this serves you well as you go about making offers. Like I said, it's all about balance, right? This is an easy way to take some kinda good data and use it to try to make an informed opinion. If you had to price out each of these cards individually on eBay last sold listings, it would be near impossible, especially for a set as large as this one. And so I try to balance the convenience of the data and the information that I'm going to use, the accuracy of the data, and the overall ease of the technique. And I think it has really been a very solid way, and that has really never led me wrong, because I can grab a lot of data really quickly, I can go ahead and copy and paste it, and then I can do a very simple analysis like this to help me make a better informed decision. So at the end of the day, this is really a great technique because it balances the pros of the availability of TCG player data and the cons of the data typically being known to be a little bit overpriced. It really kind of strikes a good balance, and I definitely recommend you use it. But with all that said, friends, thanks again for checking out another video. You could have been anywhere in the world, you could have been anywhere on the internet, but you chose to spend some time with me and learn something new, and that means the world. If you're not already, feel free to join the Gengar gang. It is free to subscribe, and I definitely recommend you do so. We're approaching 1,000 subs, and I couldn't be happier about the progress the channel has made so far, but there's still tons to do, and I'm glad to have you along for the journey. Other than that, hope you're having a great day. Let me know down below in the comments if you plan on using this or if you have your own different technique on how you go about pricing out binder sets. And with all that said, friends, thanks again for checking out another video, and we will talk soon. Peace.